Hey everyone, and welcome to another video. Today I want to show you how to get your feature-length screenplay on the right track quickly and easily. And what we're going to do is we're going to be taking a look at traditional hero's journey stories, right? So this is the basic story of human civilization, right? We have a hero who goes out into the world to take something, to build something, to conquer something, to defeat something, and it is their journey doing that thing, right? And so this is a great way to understand what's actually going to be happening in your story, and then we can build all of these other pieces, philosophical dilemma, the actual structure of your story flow, all of this stuff after we have an understanding of what kind of story we're telling. So a traditional hero's journey story, you have heard stories like the knight in shining armor that goes out to defeat the dragon, to save the maiden and get the treasure, this sort of thing, right? This is exactly the kind of thing that we're going to work with. That's that kind of idea, and a lot of stories that you are familiar with follow this type of format. So the biggest thing, and this is something that I see in a lot of scripts that people are getting wrong, is that we want to start off with what our character wants. So in a traditional hero's journey story, your character is going to want something before they actually get started. And the reason for that is because it's not so much about them solving the problems that they encounter as much as it is them understanding this big goal that they have and moving towards that goal through problems over time, right? And then those problems force them to make choices about who they are, so on and so forth, but they need to have a want. So if we look at a few clear examples of this, if we meet Luke Skywalker in the beginning of the original Star Wars film, he already wants something when we meet him, right? He's still living in the village, right? He's still with his aunt and uncle, but he wants to join the rebellion. He wants to go, he wants to fight, he wants to be a pilot. So he wants all of these things already, right? He has the spirit of the hero already inside him when we meet him doing chores on Tatooine. From there, then we actually enter into our unfamiliar situation, right? Our inciting incident where he ends up, meeting the droids, re-meeting up with Ben Kenobi, and then the big change of Act 1 in the original Star Wars film, which is his aunt and uncle die, they are killed, and then that forces him to move forward and actually go the path of becoming a Jedi, this sort of thing. But it all starts with the want. So the question is, what does your hero want, right? Do they want to, defeat the Empire, right? That's a pretty clear one. Do they want to kill the dragon? Do they want to build the company? Do they want to, take over the nation, right? Like in more traditional sort of battle type stories like you might see in The Last Kingdom. Do they want to take over the land, this sort of thing? But what do they want, right? What are they actually going to be going out in the world for, right? And they haven't even left yet. They haven't left the village, but they want something. Also, Breaking Bad works this way, right? Walter White already wants the respect, power, and control when we meet him. The thing is, he has not actually gone out to take it yet because he hasn't experienced enough pain in his comfortable situation to force him forward. So the want is going to be huge. Your character needs to want something in it, and if you're going to make a traditional kind of hero's journey story, it should be something big. They want to win the game, build the company, conquer their enemies, defeat the Empire, whatever, right? Something large. Then now we can actually have a conversation about the theme, and we can have a conversation about philosophical conflict, which you have likely heard me talk about on this channel. Philosophical conflict, essentially, all it is, it's a big sounding phrase, but all it is your characters have beliefs, they have views about what should be done and how it should be done, and then they have conflict about the way in which they're doing things and how they're actually going after what they want. So let me explain this a little bit more clearly. When we're looking at a traditional hero's journey story, there's a few key philosophical conflicts that we can see a lot of the time. So this is viewpoint 1 over here. Viewpoint 1, viewpoint 2, because they are beliefs in conflict or ways of acting in conflict, you could also say. So these are usually pretty simple, right? So we have courage versus cowardliness. So in the traditional knight in shining armor story, does the knight have the courage to step out of the village and actually go on and face this dragon head on? Or is he going to be a coward and he's not going to fight this dragon because he believes that the fight is not winnable or insurmountable, these sorts of things, right? So you could also view this as, you know, never giving up, never give up, versus, you know, giving up when things get hard, right? Another major philosophical conflict you will see in a lot of hero's journey type stories is honor versus dishonor, right? So do you win honorably or do you win dishonorably, right? So now we're getting into some of these more specific moral questions where your character wants something. Let's say they want to build the company, but are they going to build that company, you know, ethically and honorably? And are they going to be treating their allies with respect? Or are they going to be going behind people's backs? These sorts of things. You know, it's that sort of question. What you see this in The Last Kingdom very specifically, right? Where our main character Uhtred is constantly in between the fact that he wants his own kingdom, he wants his own power, he believes that he should, you know, be a high-ranking lord, versus he doesn't want to go behind Alfred's back to actually get these things, right? He does not want to undercut his close friend to win, right? And so this is how you get into this element of, does your character take on what they're doing in an honorable way, or do they do things dishonorably, right? Do they go behind people's backs? Do they, you know, harm their friends on their way to success, right? You can also see this honorably versus dishonorably kind of idea in Sicario, where the big dilemma is, to take down bad guys, is it okay to do bad things to take them down because they're worse than us, this sort of thing. So it's like, if you win dishonorably, does that still hold up because you took down these people that you believed were worse than you, right? And so this is another very, very traditional hero's journey type dilemma of, when you are going after something, do you do that in an ethical, honorable way, or do you do that dishonorably? And so this is something that we can see a lot. And this is also how you can get into character flaws. So when we're thinking about character flaws, what it will be is that sometimes, you know, let's say sometimes they're choosing the wrong choice here, right? And so your character is not constantly choosing honor every moment, right? That kind of makes them bland and boring, right? They're perfect people. They never make mistakes. Sometimes they go the dishonorable route, and sometimes it pays off for them, and sometimes it harms them more. And also, sometimes going the honorable route harms them more than it would have if they went the dishonorable route, right? And so now you actually can create the dilemma, right? A genuine conflict of the two paths your character has. And so really what you're trying to do is you set up choices that show us what they do. Do they make the honorable choice? Or do they make the dishonorable choice? Do they make the courageous choice? Or do they make the cowardly choice? Do they make the choice to keep pushing and not give up even when things are hard? Or do they give up when things get too difficult, right? These are some pretty clear, pretty simple ways that you can begin your philosophical dilemma. So even if you're not sure what your story is really going to be about in an ethical way or this sort of thing, you don't have to know. What you can do is you can just build choices based upon these ideas: courage versus cowardliness, honor versus dishonor, and this will give you the backbone for a traditional hero's journey story. Now, once you actually have this laid out and you say, okay, my story is about honor versus dishonor, and my character wants to build the business. They want to build some sort of huge company or whatever, right? Okay, cool. Now we go into how this actually translates into a story, right? How do we actually plot out what's supposed to be happening, and how do we actually create these choices that we are talking about? And so this is where Dan Harmon's story circle comes in. Because all story circle structure, or all structure is, all structure is the flow in which your character goes through change and makes choices, right? And so there is a flow in the way that human beings change and grow and adapt. And that is what we are building into our story when we're actually talking about story structure. So structure comes from life, not from some guys who decided that there were some rules about how a story flowed. So when we have Harmon's story circle, it's going to look like this. We have our character. This is going to be our protagonist, and they want something, right? We made that clear. They want something, build the company, win the game, win the big game, win whatever, this kind of thing. Now we have our unfamiliar situation here. This is our inciting incident. This is what's really kicking us off, getting us moving. Then we have the adapt, okay? And now these two pieces are interlinked together, okay? So what this is gonna be is when you have a problem, right, or a new situation, what this ultimately does is it creates a choice, okay? So then this is where your story is asking your main character something. Will you, if we come back over to here, let's grab courage versus cowardliness. Will you have the courage to go on the adventure, right? So will you choose courage, or will you stay in the safety of where you are and choose the cowardly route, right? So then you initially make this choice here at the adapt. So this is where the choice is made. Usually the courage route. Well, it depends. We'll get into that. And then this is where they get what they want, at least on a small level, depending on how large your story circle is. And then this is when they encounter the pay. What the pay is the pay is a new unforeseen problem, right? And this essentially is this choice created over here, but on steroids, right? So in the new unforeseen problem, this is where we create a pivotal choice, right? So usually what happens is that in the beginning of your story circle flow, your character isn't forced to make a super dramatic choice just yet. And then but what happens is it seems like they're going to get what they want at the 5 here until this pay comes, creating a bigger choice where they are re-asked, courage versus cowardliness once again. And now they must make the pivotal choice, right? They must make the pivotal decision, right? So here is where in a traditional hero story, your character chooses courage, and now, they win. Through choosing courage, they win, right? This is how we see that. This would be like where our climax takes place. They take down the dragon when it seems at the pay that it's not going to be possible. Therefore, having changed, they are now, courageous, and have gotten what they want, have gotten the goal. So this is a big view on how this works. Now, how you can actually build this into your drafts is you need to build your act flows here, okay? So essentially what we do, let's do this here. Okay, and so this is your story, in my opinion, and I think this is the most helpful for you starting out, is your story is really 4 acts, not 3. I don't know why the second act of movies is so long and supposedly so different. Really, I think there's 4 acts in a feature, usually. And so we have what I will refer to as Act 1. We'll call this Act 2, Part 1, Act 2, Part 2, and then we have Act 3. Now this is really, 4 acts, but just so that you have an understanding, obviously this is your Act 2, if that's not clear. So if we're looking at something like Star Wars, this is kind of how the flow is working, right? So we have Luke. Luke is our protagonist. Luke wants to join the rebellion, you know, fight the Empire, be courageous, this kind of thing, right? Then he has a new situation, which is R2-D2, you know, runs off. You could also say he meets, you know, Ben Kenobi here, and Ben Kenobi offers him a choice, right? He's saying, you should become a Jedi. This is what your path is. And then Luke chooses no. He says, no, I don't want to be a Jedi. I'm just going to do what I'm going to do. He gets the droids again. It's droids. But then we have at the end of Act 1, we have the stormtroopers find Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru, and they are killed. So Aunt and Uncle are killed. And this creates a pivotal choice. This creates our pivotal choice because now things are completely different, right? The reason that he was going to stay here, he chose no because he was going to get the droids and return to the farm and everything was going to be normal, right? However, his aunt and uncle are killed, and so therefore we have the pivotal decision here, where Luke decides to go with Ben Kenobi to become a Jedi. Now you could say, is this really a choice because he's sort of forced into this by what happens? It's kind of both, right? Like, especially in Act 1, your character, especially if they choose no here, they need that extra push to get over the, you know, cowardliness, right? And this is kind of Luke's thing, is he believes he needs to stay home. He's not sure if he's ready for this sort of thing, even though he wants it, right? And that's kind of the dilemma. It's like he wants to become a Jedi, he wants to save, you know, he wants to save the rebellion, all this sort of thing, but he's not sure if he can actually go forward and make this happen. And so then when his aunt and uncle are killed, now he must make the pivotal decision, and now Luke is changed, right? He is now changed from being a farm boy with his aunt and uncle to now pursuing becoming a Jedi, right? And so this is essentially the flow that you see for each of your acts as well as your larger story, right? And so then you start again, right? Luke, okay, you know, Luke wants to train to be a Jedi, to become a Jedi. And then we essentially have, it's, you know, they have to get to Alderaan, right? That's the thing. We meet Han Solo, choose to work with him, to work with Solo. And then they get the ship, right? Because that's why they worked with Solo here. But then once they're actually out in space, we have a new problem. They encounter a small moon. And they realize that's no moon, this is a space station, right? Now they are trapped on the ship, and they also realize that Leia is here. And then Luke makes the choice to save Leia, or to rescue Leia, And now, again, he is now making even more direct action to help the rebellion, this sort of thing. So on and so forth. You can essentially do this for the entire story. From here, you have, let me just do this for you guys if I can. Luke wants to rescue Leia. And so then we have problem of, you know, getting to Leia is going to be a problem. So what do they do? I can't remember. But the point is they get to Leia here, get to Leia in the prison, and then the new problem again is now Everybody knows they're here. So troopers know they are here, and they have to escape the Death Star with Leia. I'm trying to remember what this beat is here. What is the problem? And then the adapt to get to her. Essentially, they formulate the plan to get to the prison deck and save Leia, right? And that's essentially what happens. Form plan to save Leia, as well as Ben Kenobi going and doing his own thing. Act 3, now that they have actually saved Leia, Luke wants to destroy Death Star, save Rebellion, this sort of thing. And now we have unfamiliar situation. Death Star is closing in on Rebel base. So then it's form a plan to blow it up with the help of the plans that R2-D2 is carrying. And then essentially they launch attack on Death Star. Problem is, Vader is here. Starts killing everyone. And ultimately, Luke must choose. Luke must, take the shot under extreme pressure and, save the rebellion. So off the top of my head, that's essentially how the flow of Star Wars works. And so what happens here is that you consistently have problem, character choice, problem, character choice, right? Problem, character choice, problem, character choice. And the get is that they get a version of this thing, right? So they form a plan to save Leia. They get to Leia, but obviously they have not saved her yet because they're not actually out of the Death Star yet, right? Therefore, they must fight the stormtroopers that know that they are here. And this is going into, all of this is playing into Luke's ultimate want, right? Luke wants to become a Jedi. He wants to save the rebellion, right? He has these larger ambitions that he is consistently going after, right? So this is a great example here where Luke does not have to rescue Leia. And this is the thing, Han does not want to do this. And this is where we get some of our philosophical conflict, right? Han is for himself. Luke wants to save the rebellion. Luke is focused on saving the rebellion and saving Leia. Han doesn't care. And now we have this problem. Therefore, Luke must convince him to actually do this so that he can do it, right? Therefore, the want of the character is driving each story even more than the problems that they are facing, right? Because if they don't actually want something, they're not going anywhere. So hopefully that is helpful to you. That gives you a general sense of how to get your story started. It's about understanding what your character wants, building out a clear dilemma of choices, and then building out a clear structure to get your story on track. Hopefully this has been helpful to you. If you're interested in working with me one-on-one, there is a link below, and I will see you guys in the next video.